They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. But what does that mean about music? I hope you will enjoy this small little series I'm going to be doing where I explore the songs that were introduced in RWBY Volume 2, break them down, and try to figure out what they're trying to say. And without further ado, cue the intro. Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, Jake of the OneManBand is back again, doing the whole RWBY thing what I've been doing for a while, about 2 years. Here we are, we're going to be breaking down some of the songs that were introduced to us in RWBY Volume 2. Now I'm going to be exploring the songs as they come in order on the actual soundtrack of RWBY Volume 2. Now I have already done Time to Say Goodbye back at the beginning of RWBY Volume 2. So I'm going to be starting with track 2, Die. Now, this track gets shown in episode 4 at the very end of the fight Team RWBY has with Roman Torchwick in the mech. And then Neo shows up and all that stuff goes down, they escape, Weiss makes a bad pun. Episode ends. Now I've heard a few people say, oh, this song, it's describing Neo, or it's describing Roman Torchwick. But when I really got down to kind of exploring the lyric, exploring what it was trying to say, I don't think that narrowing it down just to one person is the true intent of this song. It seems to be exploring multiple people, like it's talking about groups of people in general rather than individuals, but using individuals as sort of core examples. I'm going to be going into this a little bit more into detail as we get into the lyrics, so let's just start off with the very beginning. At the beginning of the song, the lyrics are, "It was just fine, we lived in peace, looked to a happy ending." Now, these lyrics start right off the bat. There's no intro music, there's none of that stuff. It just, like, boom, right as it starts, lyrics. So you know that it's actually trying to tell a story. It's not really kind of beating around the bush. It wants to get you to listen. Now, those lyrics are pretty self-explanatory. A group of people lived in peace. All they did was looked to a happy ending, you know, maybe finding love, being at peace, you know, all that good stuff. Now, who can this really be talking about? Well, as we know, there have been wars in the past in the RWBY universe. So it could be talking about people in the past. It may even be talking about sort of Ozpin's generation. By what he states, he hints at that he has been in conflicts before. Such examples are when he tells Glenda that the children should play the part as children because it's not a role that they'll have forever. That kind of suggests that his childhood was kind of maybe stolen from him in a way that war came along, or just authority. And also, when in episode 2 of RWBY Volume 2, Ironwood asks his name is James, asks Ozpin if his children would be able to fight a war, to which Ozpin replies, "I hope that they never have to," which suggests that he himself has probably been in conflict, and therefore he knows what it's like. The next part of the song, "Our days were bright, they shine like gold, every step ascending." Now, that just means everything's on the up and up. There's probably great feats in technology, everything was just going good for everyone, there was nothing really bad going on. I mean, there probably was a little bit of crime, but whatever, a little bit of crime is healthy, it keeps the police employed. So, pretty much, it's stating that it was a great time of peace, great time of advancement. That's what makes me think about, it's kind of describing what's going on with Team RWBY, because as it's stated in the beginning of the series, they're experiencing a great time of peace. Now, that also could have been happening back in Ozpin's day, but I don't want to restrict this song to just one timeline. It could be making references to both Ozpin's childhood timeline and Team RWBY's now timeline. Does that make sense? I hope you guys are following along, because I'm just terrible at explaining things. Our dreams came true, our path was clear, the moon watched safely from above. Now, this is basically suggesting everybody knew what they wanted to do. It's probably talking about like hunters, huntsmen, and huntresses. Their path was clear. That's what they wanted to do. And that really reflects RWBY in the sense, like, she knows what she wants to do with her life. She wants to become a huntress, she wants to protect people, she wants to do all that stuff. Now, did Ozpin have that same type of vibe, that same type of thoughts when he was younger? What this is basically saying is that everything was going good. These first few, I guess you could say, lines, I'm not sure what the exact term would be for these sections of the song. I didn't really study music all that much, but it's really just stating that everything is good, everything is peaceful, everything was going good, but as we know, things are gonna get bad. Alright, so the next part, but every smile is not the same and every heart's not filled with love. For mankind, look around, it's getting very hard to find. Not every open wound is simply healed by time, but revenge is always sweet and chaos is the prize. Not only does this have a lot of good rhymes in it, but it really tells a very... It tells a story in itself on kind of how people are thinking, how they react to things, and just things along that nature. Now, in the very beginning, it's kind of suggesting there are different factions in the whole human faunus community. Due to the whole, not every heart is filled with love for mankind, that could be talking about the White Fang, or maybe even Torchwick, because he kind of has the whole problem with authority thing. It could be talking about the Grimm, but as we've really seen, the Grimm themselves aren't, I don't want to say not intelligent, because some of them are very smart. I'll say sentient. They're not sentient creatures. Or sentient, however you want to pronounce it. So, what it got me thinking is that there's different factions in the human faunus community. Thus, White Fang, Torchwick, other anarchy societies, Cinder, definitely. And also, not every open wound is simply healed by time. This suggests that it's a type of wound that isn't like of the flesh, because as we know, like, you get a cut, it heals. You have a broken bone, it eventually heals. What this is basically stating, it is a wound of the soul or the heart, and I'm not talking the physical heart, I'm talking the emotional heart. So, as we have seen, RWBY, the team, hasn't really gone through anything like that, which goes back to the whole Ozpin idea. Maybe he was wronged in some way.
I've made more mistakes than any man, woman, and child on this planet.
But it may also be talking about Cinder, how she was maybe wronged in some way. Maybe by Ozpin, maybe by somebody else. Who knows? It may be even talking about Summer Rose was wronged in some way. Maybe by Ozpin or Cinder. But pretty much this lyric is suggesting that this wound, whatever it is, and to whomever it belongs, hasn't healed in time. It hasn't healed, it won't heal just with the passing of time. It's something that has to be healed or gained through something, thus going into the next part of this verse, I guess you could say, revenge is always sweet and chaos is the prize. Now, the person who has been hurt, maybe they're seeking revenge. That is probably how they think that this wound inside them will be healed. Thus, going back to the whole, maybe it's Cinder, or maybe Summer Rose, you know, who knows if Summer Rose is still alive. It may even be talking about Raven somehow. That's the thing. This song, even though it's so vague, it opens up so many cool ideas. Now, I really want to talk about that very last part of this verse, and chaos is the prize. Now, what is a prize? Exactly. A prize is something that you strive for. It's something that you want to get. So, whoever is seeking revenge, chaos is the prize that they want to get. They want to achieve chaos in the streets, in the community. They just want to watch the world burn, pretty much. Taking a line from The Dark Knight. I don't know about you, but I just really loved that line right there. Alright, now comes the chorus. The chorus is stated many times in the song, so we're only going to come across it and discuss it once. Feel it everywhere and you see it flowing. Enemies arise and the hate is flowing, shattering the moon and bloodying the sky. The machines of war will fuel both sides, and the hate will only grow more lies. Farewell to days of peace, cause now it's time to die. Now in the very beginning it's basically stating the hate, evil, it's growing. Now what do we know about hate and evil? That's basically food for the creatures of Grimm, and also for just general despair, generally. That was bad. Now when it gets to the line, shattering the moon and bloodying the sky. Now we do know that the moon, a big part of it is actually shattered. Remnant's moon. It's shattered. Like, as we've seen from one of the Tales of Remnant, that half of the moon is perfectly fine, while another half is shattered, and it has the fragments of the shattered piece of the moon. They're kind of just floating out there. That's why the moon periodically looks full, and then it looks kind of shattered, and then it looks like fully shattered, and then it goes back to being full. You know, moon, rotation, tides, everything, science. Now it leads me to believe that maybe sometime in the past, somehow, the moon shattering was caused maybe by humans. Maybe during a war, the moon was shattered, or who knows, maybe the moon being shattered led to the discovery of dust, as some people theorize. Maybe it led to Grimm actually arriving because, you know, man was born from dust, but then also came the creatures of Grimm. So, basically, we know the moon is important. And it's even more locked into its important state in the lyrics of this song. Now, the last part of that line, bloodying the sky. Now, that can mean a lot of things. That can just mean the sky takes on a reddish tint, or it could mean that actually the sky is being bloodied because so many bodies are being bled. That's right. So this leads again to the whole aspect of war. In war, people die, and then people bleed. That's obvious. But also, what happens in war? Lots of fires happen, things are burning, and when there's so many flames in one area, it can actually cast the sky into being red. And then also, there are some times where the moon itself kind of has a reddish tint. That's the harvest moon. It happens around October, November, I think? But I'm just kind of digressing at this point, aren't I? The next part of this verse, and the greed will only grow more lies. Now, basically, what kind of greed are we talking about? Are we talking about the greed for power, the greed for wealth, the greed for anything? I mean, greed itself is bad. So we know that the thoughts of being greedy can lead to war, can lead to despair, can lead to madness. So, it's pretty self-explanatory. Greed equals war, kinda. And the very last piece of the chorus, farewell to days of peace, cause now it's time to die. Now, you could think that, oh yeah, time to die, you know, people die, stuff like that. But I think there's something more to the very end of this chorus. I mean, obviously, when it's talking about peace itself dying, like, now it's time for peace to die. So what also dies with peace? Ethnics, ideals, I mean, pretty much anything dies when peace is thrown out the window and war erupts. You know, people's basic sense of loyalty is questioned, people's ethics are thrown out the window, greed comes into play, despair sets in. Pretty much, with war comes a lot of suffering, and that's basically just homed in the chorus of this song. And with all that being said, that goes back to the whole idea of maybe this is talking about Ozpin, because, or it may be even talking about the color wars that took place like 80 years ago. All we know is that war has happened in the past in Remnant, and it wasn't good. And now that they're in a time of peace, we know that something bad is coming. And it may lead to war. So this song may just be getting the audience ready for that kind of mindset.
Where did it go? A peaceful youth seems to be gone forever. And did its place a life of war? Every truth is severed.
Alright, now it's time for the next verse. Where did it go? Our peaceful youth seems to be gone forever. And in its place a life of war. All the truths are severed. Now, where did it go? Our peaceful youth seems to be gone forever. Once again, going back to the whole idea of children being trained as huntsmen and huntresses, and then they're thrown into war. This could be kind of foreshadowing what's going to be happening to Team RWBY, but it also may be talking about what happened to Ozpin in the past, or Cinder in the past. Who can really tell, since it doesn't really give specifics on like time or anything. But once again, it's going back to the whole idea, it's a general song. It's basically a song that's not supposed to be pinned down to one singular time or one singular event. It's talking about just life in general. And in its place, a life of war, all the truths are severed. Now, this, honestly, when I read it, when I listen to it, it just makes me think of betrayal. How some people were maybe betrayed during this time. Once again, maybe talking about Cinder, maybe talking about Summer Rose, maybe talking about Ozpin. We don't know if anyone wronged anyone in the RWBY universe. We don't know. So it's really up in the air. But the very next verse, I think, really hits it home. Living our lives, watching our backs, not knowing who to trust or fear. The hate just swallows all the love, and all the truth will disappear. Now, the very beginning of this verse, the first two lines, it's once again talking about betrayal. But not the kind of betrayal that, like, you may have suspected. It's kind of suggesting betrayal of friendship, like a friend betrayed you. You betrayed a friend in some way. You know, it's really breaking down people's just love for each other, because once war comes in, then duty and all that stuff comes into play, and it can destroy friendships if you really think about it. And then the very last part of that verse, it's basically stating that love will turn to hate, so people who once loved each other, aka friends, may grow to hate each other because, you know, they may feel betrayed by them. They may belong to different factions in war. So, if this is really talking about the future for Team RWBY, we may be seeing teams end up fighting each other. Like, who are friends at this point.
Lost and blind. Since our dreams of peace have all been left behind. It's often said white clouds aren't always silver lined, but the future's looking bleak, and the storm is set to rise.
Alrighty, now it's time for the next pretty much big verse. Lost and blind. Seems our dreams of peace have all been left behind. It's often said that white clouds don't always have silver lines. Is that the actual? Aren't always silver lined. But the future's looking bleak, and the storm is set to rise. Now, in the very beginning, the first few lines, lost and blind, it seems our dreams of peace have all been left behind. That's basically stating the hope for going back to who we were before and how things were before. It's gone because the world has gone forward. It's changed, and we had to change with it. And now that the world is changed, we can't go back to it. But then, that part of the verse, it's often said that white clouds aren't always silver lined. I really like that part because it's kind of reversing and twisting the whole quote, every dark cloud has a silver lining. Well, now it's talking about white clouds. So what do we think of white? We think of purity, tranquility, peace, the flag for parlay, stuff like that. So what's it really stating is that even though you're in peace, it may not have a silver lining. Maybe you got to that peace through betrayal. Maybe you got through that peace from killing a lot of people, keeping the poor down. So, peace can be attained by really just being bad, if you really think about it. In a way, you may say that
Everything you know is wrong.
and then the very last part, and a storm is set to rise. Now, I think, once again, that bounces back to Team RWBY's perspective, because as we know, something's coming. And it wasn't just the end of Volume 2. That wasn't the master plan. Cinder still has something planned. Adam has now come in. So, a storm is rising. It's definitely rising, and will it break in the next volume? It may be, or it may continue to simmer. Maybe this tropical disturbance will become a Katrina-class hurricane. Now, I know that basically the rest of the song is pretty much the chorus, but there is a very small bridge where it basically just repeats, say goodbye, time to die, just say goodbye, die. Now, it's not just those words that are important, it's how they're stated. They're stated harshly. They're stated harshly, screamed even. So, whoever is supposed to be really singing this song or divulging this tale wants it to happen. Wants peace to die. Wants ideals to die. Once again, chaos is the prize. They want to implement chaos into the world. And why they want to do it, we don't know. You want to know why? Because if we did,
we wouldn't be asking these questions.
but anyway, guys, I think that's going to just wrap up this song breakdown of Die. So, like and favorite if you've enjoyed. I know it took a lot of work for me to put this together. I basically had to learn the song. I had to research things. I basically had to break it down and think. I mean, I know I probably beat around the bush a lot with not doing this sooner, but it's the thought that counts, right? Hopefully you guys enjoy this enough for me to do the rest of the songs that were shown in Volume 2. I would love to do them, but hey, be sure to check out the other RWBY videos that are going to be coming out around this time. There are going to be a lot of theorizing and stuff. The next one that's going to be coming out is going to be about Roman Torchwick, and I just cannot wait to get to that one, because it's amazing! So, I will see you guys next time. I'm out there in YouTube land. Be sure to enjoy the flowers, enjoy the peace while it lasts. I'll see you later.